Okay, so this is Governor Dukakis. He came and spoke at my kids' elementary school, and they're still referencing him. They still quote him. And I don't know how often you do selfies, but this was a selfie we did with you. Thank you, for being you. We live near each other, and in the grocery store, my wife sees him often, and he sometimes asks her for advice. And my wife, is very proud that she gets advice from Governor Dukakis, is asked for advice. So some of you know Megan Smith, the third CTO. I told her Ms. Nelson was speaking today, and she was so proud of your work. Is she still here? Yeah, no, I have like a text in Megan fashion, has like 20 things, ask her about this and thank her for this. And she said the body of work that you did represents so much, and thank you. So some of you may know Ms. Harris. She was the deputy counsel in the Obama administration, and her son and my son are on a team together. And for 11 games, I counted this last spring, I would see her twice a week because she supported her son as I supported my son. And she now is the deputy counsel, she's the counsel for a company called Comcast. They worry about amusement parks, they worry about streaming, they worry about making movies. And they did Oppenheimer and did a number of things. And they had a great year. And she's also on the board of Goldman Sachs. So I saw her 2 points for weeks the last 3 months. And I was always asking her about generative AI. Because she is on the side of creatives. She wants people to make great movies. She's excited about this, explosion of tools like no other time. But she's a lawyer. She has to make sure some kid in a dorm room isn't trying to, make an equivalent movie that they're contracting out in Hollywood. And it was just very interesting over the last 3 months to get these 11 data points and get her perspective. And it just reminded me of how dynamic this moment is. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I was just thinking about this as I was sitting here. So, I'm a disciple of Sandy Pentland. I've learned everything I know from Sandy. And he talks about it's the data stupid. He's one of the top 5 data scientists in the world. And just think of all the global data. Text, video, audio, maybe smell. I don't know, can you data that? But all this data all over the world that LLMs are working with. And when I think of this moment, I think of a tree that's been set up to deal with weather patterns. Its roots are like set up not to fall down. And I feel like this AI is hitting us in a way that like a tree isn't ready for and can easily topple over. And we need to kind of think a little differently than we have before. And as I navigate my world, I see leaders, and some of them are throwing their arms up. I don't know what to do at this moment. This AI is overwhelming. I'm just going to give up. And then I see leaders that say, you know what, I certainly don't know what's going on, but I'm going to be the bridge to whatever comes next. And then there are leaders, and some of them are in this room, that are like, I'm going to create the new normal. I'm going to figure this out. Uber for Web 2 didn't come in like 10 years into Web 2. There's going to be all sorts of opportunities to figure out things to do with this technology. Jeff Saviano said he's a techno-optimist with a raincoat. I think, techno-optimists can do great things, but we do need to be very careful. And, the smartphone, there are 5 billion smartphones, a $100 trillion economy. Think of what people can do as this technology is in the palm of your hands. I know Facebook was trying to make a wing that would go around the earth perpetually to get the last billion who don't have the internet. They also want them to use their product. And I know Google had balloons. But just think of all the people with smartphones, what this technology can do. So I do a science dinner quarterly. I think Boston has, we, in terms of patents and Nobel Prizes, we're off the charts per capita, but we don't collaborate. And the next generation is sort of, they're kept in another room, the kiddie table. So I try to bring a lot of people together to connect. And Sebastian came to one of them, flew in from Seattle. And Sebastian, while he was at the dinner, hit send. Because he's the head of research at Microsoft. And he released, this was Pi Day last year, released ChatGPT 4. And he got all emotional because he just sent out this paper that he had been working on, and he was, one of the early people that knew what ChatGPT 4 could do. And he got emotional because he said 5 years ago he didn't think this was going to be around for another 90 years. He thought his kids would be experiencing what we're experiencing now. And he said that 60% of his coding right now is done by AI. and he's just thinking about the whole like indentured servitude and the whole kind of moving up in the ranks as a programmer, how that's going to change, and that may be for the good, or that may be for challenges. So I'm part of the governor's AI task force. We're meeting tomorrow. We had one meeting. There's a lot of sub-meetings. A lot of the best in this room are helping with this. You know, I also made a chat bot that this is me.
I'm a techno-optimist.
And you could
I recognize
connect it to the Blue Boy by game.
All right. So this is me. I asked myself a question, and I had a dialogue, and it like immediately came up with it. I mean, this is kind of crazy. So I'm not going to play that. And then for my conference,
Now that's what I was.
I think I have another video going on, but
To a book I had done 33 years before.
oh yeah, no, this is yeah. All right, so hold on, sorry, just bear with me. You slideshow. Yeah, so the audio is really cool, but I have other videos going on, and I don't know how to turn them off right now. But this is where I am, like Einstein. The Milky Way, and I just took a photo, and I made this video just as I was sitting here. You know, this is the stuff you can do, you know, and that's not really me. I'm right here, but you know, that's kind of crazy. So who's familiar with this bridge? You know, Salt and Pepper Bridge, Longfellow Bridge. This is actually the first bridge that connected Boston and Cambridge. And while this building, the Loeb House, was built in 1812, the leadership of Harvard have always lived on this plot of land, even before this was built. And the leadership in this house, in this building, on this plot of land, in 1793 said, we cannot have that bridge built between Cambridge and Boston. And look why. Look what they said. People should be laughing. This is kind of ridiculous.
They were right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this bridge was new technology that they were worried were going to corrupt the students. I see people, you know, like scanning it. So right a little after this bridge, this was a chart that was done. Took 5 weeks, 6 weeks to get to California, and then 60, 70 years later, look, the rapid change. You could get 3 days to California from the East Coast. And this is my office. There's a canal that was dug 0.7 miles from the Charles to get here because 9% of the rubber was produced in the United States in this building 100 years ago. And they put train tracks behind it. Tires, you know, women's suffrage, you know, has a direct link to the bicycle. And this was invented in the building. They realized if you put woven material around a rubber hose, you could make it into a productive thing to put out fires. Before that, there was the bucket brigade, and 90% of the hoses were made here. Yeah, so this guy, William Barton Rogers, was all into the Industrial Revolution, and he surveyed Virginia, and he came up with a great survey that the politicians ended up not using, but he was really frustrated because he couldn't find people to work with him. And instead, he moved to Boston, and he loved how active Boston was. And he's the creator of MIT. These were the first courses because he wanted to create an institute that would build people to react to the time. And then the Alexander Graham Bell, here, you know what, here, do you want to go? I get the signal.
Oh, okay.